Good Troy episode. She has some cool moments in this one. She's actually super useful. Probably the most useful person on the ship for them. It's also obviously Geordie and Wesley Crusher, who are working the problem.
Toiling away on those back seats, pressing the buttons.
Yeah.
Working hard.
Even if I can't destroy my Star Trek credentials anymore, I knew Will Wheaton from The Big Bang Theory before I knew him from Star Trek.
You literally can't. You said like you were introduced with J.J. Abrams. Well, actually, that's not probably too much of a bad thing. I think at least you were introduced like to this magical world of Star Trek.
Yeah, I love it. It's my favorite. So they see Texas, he's going and playing blackjack, and we get like the first really fun moments of Data in this episode, where he goes and sits at the table and the guy puts the cowboy hat on him. Data in a cowboy hat is absolutely hilarious. He's like, oh, blackjack, access in, and then he explains the whole game, how it works. And he's doing like very stereotypical gambler actions in the thing, like he's scraping the cards against the table to ask for a hit. I just thought things like that are really cool, because it's almost like he's accessed like, the Wikipedia in his head of what blackjack is. He gets a very in-depth look at how the game works and all the actions and how you're supposed to be, but it's still completely different from everyone around him. I've always enjoyed those scenes of how he learns about something, and it's discussed in Measure of a Man. He says, take games of chance, for example. I knew everything about poker and I thought I was equipped to play it, but then when I played it, it was completely different. And I think that shows in this episode as well, that he just has like a stereotypical idea of how to act and behave when he's playing blackjack for the first time.
Yeah, that's only a few episodes before as well, isn't it? Measure of
Man.
So like, I think that's like a fair reference to make as well. And like, I think it's a good example of the AI learning. Like, especially, I don't know, I want to assume it's intentional, but the line like, you're counting cards, and he's like, why would I count them? Like, yeah, so he just...
The value of the cards remains quite consistent. What would be the purpose in counting them? Yeah. And then the girl's like, the girl, I think she's called Vanessa, she's like, yeah. There's so many like funny scenes in this episode where Data says something and she just like agrees with him.
Yeah, I didn't really know what her deal with Data was. Maybe she just liked him because he could roll the dice, but she didn't know at that point. But yeah, like, I think that like, I hope it's intentional having the AI learning, because he just, what I assume is he looked at the rules and then from looking at the rules and reciting them to playing it, he'd already done like an infinite amount of computations on how to play the game like really well, and just like ran the rules over in his head rather than like looking up. Like, because like I don't think you meant that where he looked the Wikipedia up. I think you meant like that he'd actually just had the rules, and because on the Wikipedia it'd say, a technique would be counting cards or whatever, but he just looked up the specific rules for this game and then used his positronic brain to be like, okay, this is how you play it effectively.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like in The Matrix, where it's like, you know how to fly a helicopter? And then she's like, I do now.
Yeah.
And he kind of just downloads the information into his brain.
What I'm saying is he does like, so he downloads like the rules, but then he, like they're doing at the moment with their AI learning, like how you would teach like an AI.
Oh, so he would play like thousands of games in a second.
Yeah, he would just sort of like just work it all out from the time it took him to recite the rules to the cards being dealt. He'd already like cracked the game open without having to look up, this is how you count cards and stuff. He'd like done it himself with his own brain, like in the instant.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think that's how it is, because they take a couple of seconds where he says accessing, right, and he's just looking back and forth, and a few seconds pass, and they like kind of stay on that shot.
Yeah.
And that's something I love about Star Trek. It lets you interpret things like that. They give you enough to let you decide things like that for yourself, and you come away with your own interpretation of it. And I think you get like a kind of a special amount of enjoyment from the show, from it allowing you to do that. So they're like, you know, Data's playing blackjack at the table, and Riker and Worf come up to him. He says, "You're having fun, Data." And, you know, although there's a certain amount of level enjoyment to the game, so he tells them they're leaving. Data walks off with the guy's hat, and he has to call him back and take the cowboy hat off him. And they try and leave the Hotel Royale through the revolving doors, which we were both laughing at, because they go around it twice, and they find out that they can't actually leave the Hotel Royale for some reason. And then they kind of realize that they're in trouble. They're trapped here.
Yeah, I didn't really understand why they could have done a really like insanely simple camera trick of like just split it down the middle and just edit out the bit where they walk around the back, like, and it would have looked kind of cool because you would have been able to see like two Rikers or whatever. But it was just so lazy. I thought that was cool. I liked it.
Yeah, so they come through the doors again. Like, the camera doesn't change; it just sees them go round this revolving door. You can clearly see that they're just walking round in a circle through this revolving door. And both times they come out on the other side, they look super surprised. And I felt like the actors were just giving it everything to this thing that could have been, as you say, achieved by doing a camera trick with the door.
Yeah, just to add a bit of like pizzazz to it, but no, they get it done, get it edited.
The start of the Act 2, Counselor Troy is sensing the crew's emotions again, and she knows that they're feeling stressed and that they're trapped. And we get the plot of the busboy and the concierge, the guys running the hotel, and the busboy is, I think he's loading a gun, right? He's loading a gun and putting it, it's like an old time revolver, and putting it in his waist. And the manager's like, "Oh, I don't want to see you get hurt, especially over some dame." And the busboy is like, "Don't call her that." So there's a busboy. He's in love with a woman called Rita, and there's a villain called Mickey D. And every time you get a shot of these guys, every time you get a shot of the busboy and like the manager guy together, there's some like swelling music, and the music in this episode is so good. Yeah. It's like I'm not even sure what kind of music it is. It's just like, I'm sure we'll throw it in the episode, what the actual music, but
I don't know, what is it, like big band or like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the nah.
Yeah. LA Noir music.
Yeah, I love it. It's every time you get those two together, you get the music just turns up. That's one of the main things I like about it, is whenever you get kind of a scene in the Hotel Royale with the characters from the Hotel Royale, you get those music over the top as well.
Well, their dialogue was, I know they have an in-universe explanation, but they do spend a lot of time with this, like, fist-bitingly awful dialogue. And
yeah,
I think they do play it quite, like, especially the smile guy, the manager guy, plays it. I think he's the most enjoyable. Like, the bellboy's kind of just playing it straight and it's kind of tame. But yeah, they could have added a bit of like that. It was just because you listen to it for quite a while, especially the first bit of exposition they do at the desk. It's like, it's quite a lot, and it's very horrible. Like, it's really it's purposely bad, obviously.
You have that scene later when Picard and Troy are listening to it on the ship, and Troy has to leave because it's so bad.
Yeah, I love that. That's really good.
So it's almost like the writers were they were writing it bad and then congratulating themselves for how badly they'd written it.
And then submit like we have to like watch that for ages. For like 10 minutes. We're like sat there. Okay, great. Yeah, what's next?
Yeah, you do get subjected to about 10 minutes of the trash dialogue. And Data is on his tricorder again, and they sense some human DNA upstairs. And Worf goes, perhaps those turbo lifts can take us there.
Yeah, I like that. Good comment.
And there's not a turbo lift at all. It's an old fashioned elevator with like a gate that goes over the front of it,
which Riker inexplicably doesn't instantly recognize. Oh, it's an antique lift.
Yeah. He knew the door, but he didn't know the lift.
Yeah, it's like, come on, man. Where's the consistency, Riker?
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was so funny. And then Worf is like waiting for the doors to open, and Data walks over and pushes the call elevator button.
Seems to be malfunctioning.
Which is something that happens in another episode as well, when Worf is confused by doors that don't open automatically and Data has to open it for him. So, this is the first time it happened, I think, but it does happen again in a later episode.
Maybe I'll keep an eye on that. That might be a consistent little nod that they keep doing.
Worf never ever learns how to operate doors that don't open for you.
Yeah, he just needs automatic doors forever.
I don't know, and I will never learn.
I refuse to learn.
Yeah,
it is not the Klingon way.
Yeah, it's not the Klingon way to open doors.
Lieutenant, this is impossible! Impossible!